Okay, thank you very much for this interview. Today we will talk about Rackham Vale, actually the paint box edition, right?
That's right.
Okay. I will start with a question about the product itself. So, can you tell us about the inspiration behind the Rackham Vale paint box edition? How this book celebrates Arthur Rackham's artwork?
Yeah. So, well, first, Simone, thanks for having me and offering to talk about this project. This is a something that my brother and I created a couple of years ago, and it's reprinted recently. And I'm just happy to see that it's still in print and people are still interested in it, and in your case, interested in talking about it. Um, so yeah, Arthur Rackham's artwork is iconic. I mean, it's something I've always loved, and it for those who don't know, he was a British book illustrator in the early 20th century, and was one of the leading figures in what's known as the golden age of British book illustration, when it became very, very popular to, particularly at Christmas time, give gifts to children of these large format, um, fully illustrated um, fairy tale and folk tale books. So he kind of rose to fame as an illustrator during that time, and illustrated tons of books. He has a very distinctive style, and it's just something I've my brother and I both have always loved. And as it turns out, all of his artwork is in the public domain now. So it, it created an opportunity for us to use that work as an inspiration for a role-playing game setting, and to in some cases take the characters that he created or illustrated and um, try and fashion them in a very similar way to the way those characters appear in his books. Excuse me. Or in other cases, just use the image and create new lore about what that character or creature might be, or location might be. But that's kind of the beauty of the public domain, is that it's we're able to use that, to make use of that work without any restriction. But for us, it was also very important to kind of honor him and his legacy, and not to come across as though we were just cashing in on a bunch of free artwork. We really wanted to. So we have a bio of him in the book, and we tried wherever possible to hew as closely to his vision for what the creatures or characters depicted in his artwork were, and try to create something that maybe he would have enjoyed if he were around, that he would like, and hopefully something that will introduce more people to his work if they aren't already familiar with it, because it's over 100 years ago now, and people tend to forget uh, artists and artwork um, that are in the public domain. So that's another goal, is to, um, where possible, introduce more people to him and his work.
Thank you. How does this book integrate these iconic illustrations into the gameplay experience? I know surely the artwork are there, but which gameplay experience can we expect near that kind of art?
Yeah, so if you are familiar with the old school essentials setting, Dolmenwood,
Sure.
it's probably the closest to that, because it's very heavily influenced by Western European fairy tales and folklore, and um, uh, magic forests, and witches in the forest, and elves in the trees, and all of that stuff. It has a very strong um, fairy tale theme to it. So it's a hidden vale setting. It's just this kind of isolated um, valley in the mountains that could be potentially dropped into any number of campaigns, where if you just want your characters to stumble into a weird little valley full of lots of superstition and folklore and the kind of weird logic or illogic of the fairy tales and the fae. Then that's what this is kind of made for. And one thing that we did was in order to make sure that the artwork is accessible to everybody at the table, because I mean, it's one thing for the person running the game to have the book in front of them and see this beautiful artwork and be inspired by it. Um, it's not nearly as much fun if the players can't see it as well. And short of the the game master constantly holding the book up and saying, "Here, and this is what you see," which is fine. We also made these cards, which are all of the creatures that are in the bestiary are on these cards, which we thought might be a little bit simpler for the GM to showcase, to say, instead of holding up the book and passing it around, to just, hold this up. And then on the back, there's all of the stats and stuff. So they're also useful. But we tried to come up with any way we could to make sure that everybody at the table is exposed to the art, not just the GM who is running the game.
Thank you. Uh, what motivated you to update the original black and white edition to this full color paint box edition?
Well, I mean, it was always kind of painful to present that artwork in a black and white format. But when this was originally created, it was part of Kickstarter's Zine Quest. So it was originally supposed to be a 40-page staple-bound zine, and black and white, super cheap. And as we got into creating it, it just kind of got larger and larger. And so it ended up being a paperback book with with proper binding, but it was still black and white, because if we were to make it color, it was gonna we either have to charge more for people who had already backed it, or just lose a ton of money. So we went ahead with the black and white printing as originally planned for that first run, but then um, as soon as it became clear that there might be um, a market for a color edition, an expanded hardback color edition, then we did that as soon as we could, because it was much more satisfying for us to make make sure that art was presented in full color, because it's just, even looking back at that black and white edition now, it's frustrating because the art is so fantastic. You hate to put it in grayscale.
We talk about new feature and new content in this new edition. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so we added some creatures to the bestiary. We also created a couple of dungeons. There's a map in the book, and some of the locations on the map are um, detailed, and others are not. Others are just, we give suggestions about what might be there, or what kind of give a jumping off point for GMs who are going to run a game there. And so we took two of those locations and created maps and made them fully playable dungeons. That, in addition to and we also created a bunch of unique magic items too. So we added 3 appendices to the book, and then put it in hardcover. And obviously the big upgrade, at least for me, was just now everything is in full color.
Thank you very much. Uh, the last two questions are about some behind the scenes information. So the first one I would like to ask you is there are any stories or interesting moments in the production of this paint box edition that you want to tell us?
Well, one thing that was cool that we did is when it came to the to creating this paint box edition and um, deciding what new elements were going to be in here, we kind of opened it up to the community and had people um, had people who were familiar with the project. Um, we had a kind of a contest where people could write in. We posted a picture of a creature and said, "What do you think this is? You know, give us an idea." And we uh, just kind of left it open for a couple of weeks, and people sent in their submissions, had some great ideas, some really interesting, creative concepts for what it might be, and ultimately chose one of them that we really loved, and almost published it as it was written by the person who submitted it because they had such a great concept and had such a clear vision for what this it was this one actually what this creature could be. So we this was actually fan made. I mean, I've edited and worked with him to kind of add to and flesh out the stats and the entry, but that was a fan made entry.
The last question is about some gameplay information. What is the most interesting or unexpected thing you have seen in a playtest, maybe?
Well, when I was running it with my group, it was there's this creature in a river in the river called the Leviathan, and it's
Okay.
can be pretty deadly. And they meandered close to the river and encountered the Leviathan, and then were so terrified of it afterwards because they lost I think it was an NPC, but they ran away, and they ended up trekking, staying completely away from the road to travel from then on because the road hews pretty closely to the river, and they were so scared of that thing that they wouldn't go near the road, and that made their adventure in Rackham Vale very weird because they were always in the forest where all the strange things are, and they ended up making very little progress, at least traveling through the valley, but they had lots of very weird adventures.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We will surely talk about Rackham Vale. We will see the products and surely we will do some videos about it. Uh, uh, Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you. And it's available now at exaltedfuneral.com. You
Okay.
can get it from my website too, but especially for those outside the US, the shipping rates are going to be way, way better with Exalted Funeral. So
Okay.
if you're interested in it, they have the book and the cards. Um, and I think it's still in stock. I believe it is.
If it's in stock, we will leave the link right down there. Okay.
Right. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.